Hello, my name is Edward Ashley Smith, and this is one of my many videos, but this is the end of my immigration case, trying to get my wife in the country because she's Russian, and the only mistake she made was to make a couple of false statements on her original application, which if she'd not made them, she wouldn't have been allowed in the first place. One was that she had a job, and the other one that she owned her own property, neither of which was true. We're both very poor, and we were working together on a special mission in Russia. Anyway, I got this final adjudication from Judge Goldstein, who's the head of the British immigration system, and also the Secretary of State. And it says, I put a reference in there saying, your reply purposely delayed until the 9th of May, responding within the time limit of 2 years as detailed by you. Date of my reply, 15th of 6th, 2007. Headline, without prejudice, and all contents are my own personal opinion. Of course, the 2 years refers to the 2 days they gave me to reply to his adjudication. Dear Judge Goldstein and UberSecretary of State, whichever is the sooner, I have read your I make no order on this application, which with unbelievable self-restraint, and have avoided responding to what I consider to be the greatest load of rubbish since Tony Blair was very unfortunately elected, and thank God that he is shortly to depart into, no doubt like yourselves, total obscurity, with the legacy of being the worst Prime Minister in this country's history. Clearly you and your minions are under the totally false impression that you are indeed God. If any of you are able to read, by which I would intimate in this case, at least between the lines, then it would be clear that you are dealing with a person who was raised in this country, served in the forces until invalided out chronically or with no hope of ever getting any better, despite which I managed to achieve 40 years in the plastics manufacturing industry in this country and abroad. Needless to say, I hope to reiterate that I speak from a position of absolute sincerity and truth, and always have done, because my values are not based on money, like yours, your 100,000 plus salary from the public purse, whereas I work for every poor cent I ever earned. For you to take the stand that there is no injustice in this case is little short of complete stupidity. What is law? Is law the fact that the British Embassy in Moscow saw fit to ask what my wife was doing during her visits here, within the confines of 6 official valid visitors' visas, which were never broken, not once? It was no business of theirs what she did with her visits, none whatsoever. Furthermore, for them to take the high and mighty attitude of saying that we do not believe you, under a Gestapo-like interrogation in Moscow, and then to deny that they ever saw her passport, which contains a picture of her son as well in it, this is beyond anyone's comprehension, and clearly far beyond yours. That is definitely a complete lie. Frankly, your extremely badly written non-judgment, in my opinion, is beneath contempt. We do not seem to have any values left in this country. Strangely enough, it is your profession which has brought this country to its knees, the class system, the system that is now shouting to the rooftops that there is no racial or age or sex discrimination, at the same time that it is saying our prison and justice system is full of coloured criminals. What is true is that the whole of the immigration system is full of coloured people, and the only white person that I saw was a clerk to the court. That is a fact. The Judge Bart Stewart, who came from somewhere in the West Indies, reminded me of a previous boss I had, Christopher Hamilton, who also had a false name, whose real name was Count von Strachwitz from Austria, whose favourite hobby was going to see The Sound of Music and leaving before the end. Clearly, she was prejudiced before the non-hearing was started. She refused to let me speak, except to answer direct questions, and refused to let a friend speak on my behalf, which the court phoned me about the day before, and agreed it was okay for him to do so. They phoned me the day before. Judge Bart Stewart refused and threw that idea out as she would have to write it down, and did not want to do so. As clearly she did not emanate from this country, she could not even produce a coherent synopsis of what transpired, but wrote only of her own vague impressions, which included her vitriolic judgment on a very personal basis against me. I was not the person on trial here. She was supposed to be judging whether my wife could just have a visitor's visa. She, like yourselves in your supreme wisdom, consider what she and your lot have the right to judge whether I and my wife are trustworthy or not, you cretins. I am telling you and your lot that the day you have the right to judge my or my wife's character as being out-and-out liars, and that I do not believe that she will not overstay her visitor's visa, will surely be the day. We, in my view, supported by articles in at least the Daily Mail, unlike most of the Immigration Department, do not have any criminal record to date, and are therefore entitled to be respected as God-fearing, upright, just and honest citizens. We have not been before the court for all sorts of sexual encounters brought on by seducing the cleaning lady and being found out by one's girlfriend, also an immigration department judge, etc. We are just ordinary citizens. Remember the case in the papers where the two immigration judges, male and female, were both shacking up with their cleaner, who was female, and shared their cleaner between them. God knows what they did with her, or themselves. What you have achieved for the record in your working lifetime, whilst being grossly overpaid for your incompetent duties, is to make the immigration system a complete laughingstock, as widely reported in the press on an almost daily basis. If I sound mildly angry, I strongly suggest that you take into account that I have restrained myself from replying until today. Finally, I would like to reiterate that the whole contents of this letter constitute my personal opinion, which will never be any other way, regardless of all or any threats of dire consequences. Frankly, you have ruined my life and my wife's life completely. She only wanted to visit, as her son does not speak much English and is still at a sports school in Moscow, which is her prerogative. He is not at boarding school, as detailed wrongly by Judge Stewart, Bart, Hamilton, Nelson, or whatever her name is. He lives with his mother, my wife, and her daughter. That is their right and their prerogative, not mine. I would not tear a mother away from her children when they are their most vulnerable, and that is my right too, self-sacrifice. Nikita needs his mother, and he lives with his mother and her daughter, the three of them, in an apartment near his school. Currently, we are indeed a dictatorship and a police state, with all sorts of corruption, and you scratch my back, old boy, and I'll scratch yours. However, one lives in the hope that this might change, but only if the European Union takes away the jurisdiction of the British government and the idiotic judicial system completely, for which we all pray fervently. Frankly, we've had enough of this idiocy, this total waste of public funds. It has no credibility in this life and has all but destroyed the fabric of this country. The Media Warpish Directorate are still very much in power, and I look forward to the day when the whole lot collapses, not before its time. My view of your inability to read, by sitting on your high horse and issuing this load of old claptrap and stating that I make no order on your application, beggars belief. The arrogance of it. One couldn't make it up. Beyond the bounds of reason and not worth waiting 2 years for. Finally, I leave you with a one-word expletive for your non-efforts, which I shall leave to your very weak interpretation. In fact, I can hardly conceal my complete indifference to your total incompetence. My personal opinion, of course. Yours, without any judgment decision whatsoever, Edward Ashley Smith, signed by me, of course. And of course the whole country wallows in the misery of all the people we've executed that weren't guilty, the criminals who were put in prison and locked up for years and years, eventually let out, women who are supposed to have murdered their children. The whole system's completely and utterly flawed, totally corrupt and totally flawed. The whole country's gone to the dogs. You can't walk down the street without being threatened by a yob with a knife. You can't, as Peter Hitchens so rightly said, devoting his whole page to it today in the Sunday Mail, he said that if the whole police force was suddenly abducted by aliens and taken into outer space forever, we wouldn't even miss them. We wouldn't. You never see a policeman around unless you pass on a double yellow line, of course, and that's one of the oldest cliches in history. And the police force are totally useless. The judicial system doesn't know what it's doing, and the immigration department is completely round the twist. They're letting a terrorist, a complete and utter chocolate drop, who's qualified as a terrorist and come here to kill people, or if you're carrying polonium-210, they'll let you in by the busload. But they won't let my wife in, who's just an ordinary, poor Russian woman, very clever with a degree, who's got a lot of education and ability. She's got a degree in sociology, and she's a qualified interpreter and a translator, and a jolly hard worker, a woman of great integrity. I look up to her terrifically. She's a wonderful person. But to treat her with this contempt is no better and no worse than communism itself. As she said to me herself, she can't see the difference between communism and capitalism. It's just a question of where you are in the food chain. And that's basically what she said. So I'll leave you on that happy note in the hope we can cram this little lot onto YouTube, and in the hope that somebody listens to this protest of complete ineptitude on the part of the hierarchy. Thanks very much. Bye bye.